G'day listeners, welcome back to another episode of the Australian Property Investment Podcast. I'm your host, Aaron Christie David. Before we kick off, I just want to reiterate that this chat is general in nature and not intended to give advice. Now, listeners, it might surprise you. I thought my mum and my kids were the only ones that do listen, but we've got some great people that tune in and reach out. So I want to first of all say thank you to the community of listeners who do reach out. There is one person that reached out and said, look, I've been listening to all your episodes and I want to share my story. So this is an unscripted chat. I want to be very, very open. Ronnie Breck is not a client. He's an avid property investor. Wanted to reach out. I said, Ronnie, I don't care that you're not a client, for example. All I care about is sharing your story. And we have no agenda here. And that's always been the case with our podcast. There's no agenda. No one's trying to monetize our listeners, for example. All we're trying to do is share great stories with great people who have ambitions to become top investors in Australia. That is our sole mission. And I know from the stats that we've got, from the 1,000 listeners that we get each month, for example, I'm talking thousands of listeners per month, which is incredible. The stories that resonate and reiterate, that really hit a spot with people are our client stories or people that have been there, done that. And that's exactly what we want to unpack today. I want to say welcome, Ronnie. I really appreciate you reaching out, mate. I'm pumped for this episode.
Thanks, Aaron. It's good to be here.
Yeah, mate. Look, I think we've got a lot to chat about, which is your story. And spoiler alert, we're going to talk about how Ronnie has come to this country 10 years ago. His accent won't give it away because I think you're sounding more like an Aussie since our last chat as well. But we're talking about a person who's built a 5-property portfolio from October 2021 to June 2023. I'll just say that again. 5 property acquisitions within 2 years. Ronnie, you know about the 3 Ps, a little about yourself personally, professionally, and property. We'll get into that. But you're a carpenter by trade. You've been in Australia for 10 years. Tell us a little bit about your story and how you've come to this point in life, mate.
Yep. Thanks, Aaron. Back in we can go back to the start. I was brought up on a farm in the north of Scotland. By no means did I have a golden spoon in my mouth or anything. You know, it wasn't like we were poor, but at the same time not really, really wealthy or anything. I always had ambition to travel. Always wanted to be a carpenter as well. Started my apprenticeship in when I was 16, whenever that was.
Yeah.
And done my apprenticeship. And back home in Scotland, obviously, as an apprentice, it's bad enough in other countries, but as an apprentice, you know, I was up on roofs, wind and rain and snow and different things. And, you know, within that 4-year period, I was sort of questioning myself whether this is what I wanted to do, sort of thing. So always had travel in my mind, and I ended up deciding to, you know, head to Australia in September 2014. So I took off and landed in Sydney with a mate of mine that was, well, he was actually already in Sydney, but I met up with him, stayed with him for a few weeks. I remember coming, I think at the time, I think you had to have $5,000 in your bank at the time to be able to come to Australia, I think. And that's basically what I had in the bank. And the first month with my friend Alan, give him a shout out if he's ever listening. But we partied and carried on, and the 5,000 soon disappeared. So I had nothing. So, but look, I always wanted to do my regional work to give me a chance for a 2nd-year visa as well. So ended up going up to central New South Wales in Double. Done regional work up there, and I remember saying to the farmer when I got there, I said, look, I promise I'll work my ass off, but I said, I've got no money. If you can shout me the first week's wage or just to get me some food, I'll be happy with that. And so they did that, and I loved it on the farm. Did my 4 months regional work that qualified me for my 2nd-year visa. And then came to Melbourne, and that was, when was that? March 2015, came to Melbourne and started with a construction company here. And just April 2015, I think it was. And since then I've been with that company. I've sort of climbed the ladder with them as well. looking after sites, and yeah, I got probably 20 men under me at the moment. So it's going quite well. So yeah.
Going quite well is an understatement, man. I think you sold yourself a bit short there. I think it's an incredible story. Bit of hunger in the belly is what I hear there as well. So you come to these shores, not a lot of money in your bank account. I mean, anyone tells you $5,000 to survive off in Sydney for a little bit will not get you very far at all. So you chew through that pretty quickly, and then the move to Melbourne. What inspired? Because I mean, look, I'm very biased. You know, Sydney's an awesome city, but and Melbourne's equally great. But what inspired the move, say, from Dubbo to not move back to Sydney and take a gig down in Melbourne?
Well, I'll be honest. There was a girl who I knew back home.
There we go. Every story starts with there.
Yeah. That's it. So she inspired me to come to Melbourne. And yeah, so I went from there. I was with her for a few years and broke up with her after that. But we won't go into that too much. But yeah, look, it was the best move of my life coming to Melbourne. Love Melbourne, and working in construction, the money's decent here, and it set me up for life really. And that's
and the decisions that you made have set you up as well.
Yeah.
So take me through. I mean, first of all, what inspires the move to say Australia? Because at that point, you could choose a lot of places at this point, and you've gone on the map. Australia's obviously got mates here that came out, but the move to these shores, what inspires that?
I was probably just looking at the weather, and I think there's an approach, especially people back home in Scotland, that they just think that every day is sunshine, and it's you just lie on a beach every day in Australia, and that's that's how it is. Down here in Melbourne, we get the cold, harsh winters, and it's not quite that. But that's probably the initial thing. And then, as I say, my friend Alan, who was in Sydney, he had been here for a couple of years, and he said, lifestyle, the work to lifestyle ratio, everything is just so easy, and he really sold it to me. And then it was more so once I got started with the company I'm with now, and just settled into Melbourne, I just thought, like, compared to back home, you're probably getting 3-4 times the wage or whatever it was, and for, I'm not going to say half the work, because I did work very hard and still do, and so does all Australians as well who I work with, and it's great. But yeah, look, it is an easier lifestyle, I have to be honest.
I agree. I think everyone also needs an Alan equivalent in their life, right? Someone that makes that first move, that inspires someone to come on the journey with them.
Absolutely.
Right? So Alan was going to come to Australia regardless if you were going to join him, right? It's like, I'm here, I'm going, whoever wants to come can come. The same can be said for a lot of things, whether it's someone starting a business and they do it, that inspires the next person. I call it the ripple effect, where someone makes that change and then it can have that ripple knock-on effect as well. You've come out here, you've completely changed your own life. That's going to inspire someone else listening to change their life, for example. And it starts with someone like Alan chasing a dream, and then others following suit as well.
Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah, look, Alan's doing well for himself as well. I've got so many friends back home who have tried to, mates and that have tried to get them to come out here, and it's a bit too much of a jump for them. I was only 20 when I came out here on my own, and I remember just getting on that plane thinking, am I doing the right thing here? Leaving family and all that. But yeah, look, it's paid off. So,
mate, what do they say? People overestimate what they can do in a year and underestimate what they do in a decade. You've been here for 10 years, and as you reflect back on how much you've grown and achieved, mate, I'm sure you pinch yourself. You don't want to it's not that you have an ego about it, but you pinch yourself going, 10 years ago on that plane, $5,000 to your name, and you go, now look what you've done. There's got to be a bit of pride as you look back, isn't it?
Oh, there is, absolutely. Yeah. Staying humble is one of the main things in my life, I think, that I tell myself every day. But sometimes when I look back, you could almost get emotional just thinking about where I came from. Even the first couple of years, as I said, I was on decent money and that, but from I partied with friends and just spent everything the first couple of years here as well, and really enjoyed it. But yeah, it's all about what you do with your money at the end of the day,
Correct.
And a common one that I've heard on your podcast, a common question is, what would you, tell someone younger than you, or what advice would you give someone? And I got that from an older person at work. He said to me, because he said, "Have you been saving money?" After a couple of years, and I said, "Nah, to be honest, I haven't. I've had a great time, but I haven't." He said, "Just save something." He said, "It doesn't matter what it is, just on a weekly basis, just save something." And I remember that conversation, and it's easy for me to say that. I'm well aware that some people can't save anything. Some people are in the red, whatever. That's each and everyone's different. But for me, I could save something. It doesn't matter if it's $10, $20, 100, 200, whatever it is. If you can save something, those numbers they'll stack up, and you'll end up with something in the bank, and
Yep.
you can do something with it.
Absolutely, mate. It's just that compound effect, right? I think I use this analogy of like, start somewhere. It's a bit like health. I mean, you obviously look like you gym when you train, for example, as well, right? So you go, well, stepping into the gym's the first bit, just showing up and then doing something's the next part, and then it gets a little bit of momentum. Saving is very much that same pattern, whereas show up, start small then breeds a little bit more success, and off the back of that, it becomes such a habit and routine for yourself that it becomes not normal to save or not normal to train anymore as well.
Yes, it's too true. Yeah, it's all too easy to get in your comfort zone and forget about these things. But if you want to succeed, it's like you say, it doesn't matter what it is. The gym, you have to push yourself out of your comfort zone, to create anything, whether that's as I say, your fitness or whatever it is. You'll always succeed outside your comfort zone, and that's something I've learned too. So
beautiful. Thank you very much. So let's start on the journey. So before property one, I want to understand where you are. So a bit of context. Were you renting? How long are you renting for? And then the follow-on question from that is, when does this penny drop moment happen for you that you go, I need to get into the property market?
Yeah. So I was renting ever since I came here. I'll just call it from when I started in Melbourne. Rent stacks up as well when you're paying, say, 500 a week or whatever it may be. That's however much a year, and then you times up by 5 years. You think, wow, that's a lot of money.
Let's do the math. It's over 25 grand a year, and then over 5 years, it's 125 grand.
Yeah, and it's a lot of money when it comes to property of that. What really inspired me was my dad. He was always told me, you'll never go wrong with bricks or mortar. That was his statement always. And I was 25, and I was driving a Ford Mustang at the time. That was my dream car, and I bought that, and not a lot of money in the bank. I had saved a little bit by that stage. But he rang me up anyway one day, and he said, "Look, I've got found this property back home. It's just a one-bed house, and I think it would be a good starting point for you." He said, "You're 25 years old. I would like you to start into something." I said, "Look, I think that it was £90,000 was what it was." And I said, "Look, I've probably only got half the money." I said, I don't think I can do it. So what I ended up doing was rang the banks, and as you'll know, Aaron, a lot of banks here, they don't want to give you money to invest overseas.
Absolutely not. You've broken the first rule in lending, mate. You've told me they're taking the money overseas.
Yeah, that's it. So I think HSBC, I did try them, and they did offer me something possibly, and they said, I think the interest rate was sky high on that. So I just said to Dad, "Look, I can't do it." So that was fine. He rang me a week later, and he said, "Look, keen to get you going." He said, "I'll lend you half the money. If you put half the money in, we'll settle the house." He said, "If you can pay me back as quick as you can."
Wow.
Obviously, I'd never borrowed money from family or that before, and always looked up to my dad as well. So I thought, if I do this, I'm really going to have to knuckle down. So did that, and then we settled May 2019 on that house, and I was absolutely over the moon. to be honest. And then I just really did knuckle down, stopped going out, sold that Mustang, and
Well done.
just
Well done.
yeah. And within a 2-year period, I had paid him that money back. Not much of a life now, but I must say, but it was totally worth it. So that was sort of that was paid off, but there wasn't anything special of a house, but yeah, it was something. But I asked myself, I remember looking at the rental yield, and I think it was getting like the equivalent of $700 a month from that little house here, and I was thinking that was 2 years of hard graft and sacrifice, plus all my savings over the other years. I thought, is that $700, gonna keep me alive? No, it's not. So I thought, how many of these 2 years am I gonna have to do this? So I thought, I'm not quite sure if this is the way to do this. So anyway, started chatting with the banks, rang Commonwealth Bank, spoke to another big shout out to Cindy at the bank. She was amazing, and she started doing the figures with me and stuff. So I said, I told her the situation. She said, well, you can't use that house as as equity for property here. So I said, look, let's just do the figures and see where it is. And I did have a little bit of money in cryptocurrency as well at the time. I got a bit obsessed with that over the years as well, and lost a little bit of money. But anyway, it came to, I had $60,000 to put towards something,
Well
and
done.
yeah. So that's what it was. So she said, look, with your income being high, we can, with 60K and do a 10% deposit. You'll pay LMI or whatever. But she said, we'll get you in to something, up to maybe 600K. I was like, oh, this is brilliant. Here we go again, sort of thing. So, as I said, never had borrowed money from a bank. Had from my dad, but I said, okay, let's do it. So, started looking at properties. Ended up finding one in West Melbourne, a 3-bed, 2-bath house, and 620 square meter. For me, the land was where at the time was having a good decent bit of land with it, and so anyone that knows me know that I never stop. So I was keen to get something a little bit underpriced and be keen to do the work on it. So ended up settling on that property in October 21. 550K I paid for it. And yeah, the side fence had fallen down. The back gate was literally off the hinges. The windows were a bit scabby, and the front driveway was all cracked. So I remember getting the keys. The very first day, got the keys and pulled down the front fence and just got stuck into it. So me and my partner at the time moved into that, and yeah, every night, I was leaving the house at 5 a.m, coming home say 6 p.m, and then doing 3 or 4 hours in the evening on the house every single night as well. So there was there's a lot of sacrifice, but I replaced the front fence, the side fence, the roof tiles were cracked, so I replaced them, got that painted, done the driveway. Did that myself because we're with work into a lot of concrete and stuff. So, and then I landscaped and put in new lawns. So yeah, that was October 21. Came to January, early Feb, and spoke with the bank. They said, "Oh, we can send someone out to do a valuation," and yeah, they said 684K it was valued at.
That's incredible. Let's just do the math. You bought this for 550.
Yeah.
October 2021. And I'll see if we can bring this up on the screen, if that's okay, Grace. And then valued at, what's that, 4 months later, an uplift of an uplift in valuation up to $684,000.
Yeah. So yeah, 134. I must say, what did I spend? Roughly 20 to 25K I spent on the house. So the uplift in value was, say 134K minus, say 25. And so you're still 100K in probably 4 months. And I couldn't believe it when I got that. I was just like, wow. So Yeah, I did kept talking with Cindy at the bank, and I said, look, what can I do with this? And she said, you could buy another property instantly if you wanted with the equity. And I was kind of like, oh, how does that work? Sort of thing, again, just, starting at the bottom. So, as I said, me and my partner was in the house at the time. And at the time we were looking for our dream home. So all was up around northeast Victoria, or northeast Melbourne. So in Kinglake, we were looking in that area anyway.
Yeah.
We've got 2 kelpies. They're closed out of the house at the minute, or you would see them on my shoulders probably. But yeah, we just wanted a bit more land and just a bit more lifestyle. So we came out of the investment, or I came out of the investment mindset for a little while, and we ended up finding a house up in, it was 2 acres up in Kinglake West. It was 880k.
Yep.
And we ended up settling on that in August 22. So we were delighted with that. Same thing, the fencing needed done. There was a good bit of work needed done. Older house, older property, fairly run down, but yeah, set to and started doing my thing again on that one. Rented out the one in West Melbourne as well. So had a bit of income from that, so I was fairly happy. So we were delighted. Got that one valued.
You bought this in August 2022.
Yeah, August 2022.
Yeah,
and then so straight away stuck to done the fencing, driveway, all that stuff again, and a couple of months later I got it valued. Or maybe it was very soon after, I got it valued at $1 million.
Wow.
So we're like, okay, this is good now. So we basically gained maybe 120k minus, minus what we can, or minus what we spent. Sorry. So back to the bank again and said, and obviously I'll say one thing that everyone says you shouldn't borrow against your home, but I did, so a little bit. So I didn't regret it, because I'm still moving forward, and you can change these things down the track, as you know. So
mate, correct. And yeah, it's such a fallacy, isn't it, when people go, oh, I don't want to have any investment debt against my home, and it's I don't know if it's an old wives' tale or where this is kind of rooted from, but people have this great fear around using their home to release equity to go and buy an investment property.
Yeah, and you see it all over the place, don't you? Like, it's on podcasts as well. It's you watch YouTube videos, people say never do it, and anyway, that's the thing.
I mean, that's personal decision. At that point, I personally can't change people's minds. It's so rude. It sounds like I'm like a snake oil salesperson when I go to say it, but it has weight coming from you, because you're going, look, you've got equity there. It's effectively untapped, unused, a bit of a gold mine, and you're able to pull that out. Now, probably where the danger is when people cross-securitize properties, and I see this consistently, where they cross-securitize and then they go to sell it, and it causes a bit of a mess to untangle it, right? So that's probably where maybe it comes from. But yeah, mate, let's kick on. And I guess the other big one here, which I want to ask you, is people at this point when they're trying to build a portfolio go, don't go and buy an owner-occupied property, and here you bought one for $880,000, and they're going, you've broken the golden rule of like investing, and you've taken on this a relatively large owner-occupied loan. Yeah,
exactly. But
that hasn't stopped you, because you kept going.
Yeah, it kept going. Cindy at the bank, she did say, look, I know I keep saying the bank, that's another no, keep going with the same bank.
It's whoever gives you the money. Yeah,
that's it. That was keeping me going at the time. Yeah, and I was new to it as well, and
Mate, you're lucky that you found someone like Cindy though at a bank, someone that's pretty switched on.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. Like someone that's like, hey, look, you can go again. They're pro property. They're helping you buy. Like, she's obviously very good at her job.
Yeah, for sure. She said that you actually have enough equity still from your other property, to get another one. So it wasn't a lot, but I think she maybe set up to 200k at the time straight away. So I sat down with my partner and I said, look, I would like to buy another one. She was kind of like, oh, hold on a minute. I think this is getting too much. What happened? What happens if if it all falls, or all fails, sorry. And I said, look, I think we're on the right track. I said, I'm getting fairly obsessed by this, as she knew anyway, but I said, I'm listening to podcasts like your one, Aaron. I was into that. And I said, I'm just watching YouTube videos. I really think it's the way forward. We need to, while we can, we got the good income, we need to keep going. And anyway, because of saying up to 200K, she said, or I started looking in Cairns, and obviously my partner mentioned this to her mum, and she said, yeah, look, my mum's said that her financial planner has said, do not invest in Cairns. It's a dud city and all that kind of stuff. And I was saying, but you need to understand rental yield here and things like this. I said that the numbers are really stacking up for me. And I said, I know maybe Cairns, I don't think it's going to completely drop in value as such. Like, we're talking just a 1-bedroom apartment. I said the yield is good, and I sort of explained that. And anyway, she ended up agreeing to me. She said, all right, then just do it. So
I'm going to jump in there. That takes a lot of conviction here, Ronnie, because you're coming up against her mum's financial planner, which obviously has a fair amount of clout.
Yeah.
And then you're coming up against the partner who's going, hey, look, I think this is risky. The financial planner thinks it's risky. In turn, probably her mum thinks it's risky, and you're going, you have to kind of sell this idea in, and you're going, let me push ahead, but you've got these headwinds, right?
Yeah. Look, and she did. She did. I'll say more about that in a minute, because it's. But yeah, I'll keep going. Look, so I ended up finding a property. I rang an estate agent up, and someone passed me on up in Cairns, and she said, look, I have a property coming up very next week. And anyway, long story short, ended up finding a 1-bed apartment in Cairns. It was 139K. She said the owner is motivated to sell. It's you'll be able to settle fairly fast, etc., etc. I did the numbers, and I thought 139K isn't a lot of money to put down. Obviously showed the missus, and everything. Everything was everyone was happy eventually. And I was looking at that, and it said up to 300 per week income from that for 139K, and I was thinking, wow. No, I looked at the body corp, etc., and anyway, we ended up settling on that in November at 22, so it was very quickly after. But I looked for a tenant, got that rented out almost immediately for $330 per week. So we're talking a 12.5% yield.
Oh my goodness!
On that straight away. So that was covering obviously the mortgage, it was covering everything else, and we were getting extra money in from it as well. So showed that to Chelsea, my partner, and she was like, "Oh, that's amazing," sort of thing. So obviously within no time, back to the bank again. I said, "Look, our house is valued, $1 million. Can we, that's 120K or whatever. Can we do this? Can we do that?" And, center everything with the West Melbourne property, the Cairns one. And she said, "Yeah, you seem to be, everything looks good." So she said, "Look, we can give you another X amount of money again, if you want to look again." So back to the kitchen table again. I said, "Right, can we go again?" And she was like, "All right, well, you've gone this far, you might as well keep going," sort of thing. So we end up looking again. I've been following Eddie Deline for a long time then, as well. And inspired, obviously, Eddie was on TV. I know Eddie did a podcast with you as
shout out to Eddie. We'll include a link to Eddie's podcast as well, mate. Thanks.
Yeah, no worries. And yeah, I ended up reaching out to Eddie, and what it was, going back to what I was saying, was about saving something. A few years back, someone said to me, there's this app called Raise, and it's basically rounds up your money. So if you go to the shop and you spend $8 on a loaf or something, it rounds your money up to $10. So it takes $2 out or whatever it may be, or $90, it takes $10 or whatever. And then you can just set a reoccurring amount of money into that as well. So I started doing that and never looked at it really again. Put an X amount in every week. So coming to this point, Cindy at the bank again, she did say to me, you need a small deposit for this one. We can use equity, but you're going to need a deposit. So I said, well, I've got 25K in this raise account. Don't get me wrong. I know this is an external app, but and you would be better off having it in an offset or something like that. But it was discipline for me.
Well, it's out of sight, out of mind, isn't it? Yeah.
Yeah. So had my 25K. So she said, yeah. So we're good to go. So this was still late November. Say, spoke with Eddie. He found a property, and we settled on a property in February 23. So it was a 3-bed, 2-bath townhouse for 298K. At the time, Eddie was telling me, this can be rented up to 500 a week, and obviously the Perth market has started to go crazy, with the rental market and everything else, as we all know. And so settled on that in February, as I said, and we got it rented out again almost immediately for 600 a week.
Wow.
So that was 600 for a year. I think we got something like 30 or 40 applications on it straight away in Perth, because it was just crazy. But yeah, if doing the calculations, that was 10.5% yield again. They're high numbers. So
incredible
again,
numbers. And it says Cairns here. If you're watching, it says Cairns. It's actually Midland, this property as well. The last one was Cairns. So small typos here, but keep going, buddy.
Yeah, that's Midland in Perth. But so 10.5% yield covered everything. The mortgage, as I say, it was body corp on that one. Another thing with Eddie is, he has a different approach to, how you go about property. Some people say it's all house and land, and I'm not saying anything against that. Of course, house and land is great, but Eddie always said, a unit, if you can make a couple of $100,000 on a unit or something, why not? What's the issue, sort of thing. So we went ahead with that one. Delighted with that. And then obviously, as I keep saying, back to the bank again. I said, look, this is we've got a bit of income from this one and the last one. So we're done the figures again. And Cindy said, small deposit again needed, but with using equity again, we can go again. She said probably give you maybe 250 or something on memory. So I said, all right, okay. So by this time, Chelsea was starting to really, get into it, like me, and backing me all the way. So it was great. So fast forward to I went with Eddie again.
Yep.
He said, look, if you want to go unit again, something a bit less, obviously because I couldn't borrow too much. Said 228K it was in Fremantle in WA again. And that one could be rented up to, I think he said something like 320 or whatever it was. So June 23, we settled on that one. 360 per week we got it rented out for. So another 8.2% yield, another pretty good yield with that. And so that's what took us to there. If we go back to the 3-bed in Midland, that was bought for $298, and I got that valued a couple of months later for $384, and today it's up to $420. So from February last year. So those numbers are really stacking up as well. The 1-bed unit, as I just mentioned, for $228, that one's now worth $300 as well. So yeah, it's been a fair journey, Aaron. But yeah, what I was going to say about my partner Chelsea, the laugh we had a minute ago was sitting at the table from that property in November 22, and her saying, "Wait a minute, we could, this is not a good idea." To this year, we do a thing every year at New Year. We sit and say,
Awesome.
what was the best thing about your year gone past? What was your worst thing, and what's your hopes for the future? And her hope for this year. Sorry, what's your hopes for the coming year? And her hope for this year was to get 2 more properties.
Awesome. Awesome. And just by sheer the power of talking about this together and putting it out there, it's not even like we need to make this happen. It's going to happen, isn't it?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah. Like we've come to a point, like we are saving for a wedding at the end of this year. So, these things all come in the way as well. So it probably has slowed us down a little bit, but we're already, in talks with broker and the bank, but just rearranging things. And yeah, we're looking at buying very soon again. So yeah,
mate, well done. Well done. Let's unpack this a little bit more now. Where I see things start to come unraveled is when complexity becomes the enemy. Were any of these properties bought through a trust or a company or a different entity, or these bought in individual names?
No, so they're individual names. Cool. And yeah, again, I know that's probably not the right idea sometimes as well, but yeah, I was very green in the start, but yeah, these things can be changed like everything else. So
mate, yeah, well said. And why I say that is because so many people get stuck in the detail. I'm talking about so many smart investors who don't pull the trigger. This is in no way a dig at yourself, Ronnie, but you're a carpenter by trade, right?
Yeah.
Whereas people that go to universities and multiple degrees and they sit there and they agonize on these decisions effectively because they're super, super intelligent and smart. But you get to a point where you go, I'm just going to pull the trigger. I'm going to do some research. And like I said, the property market rewards action takers and decision makers. And you've done both.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Look, it's, the most enjoyment of this I've had is, explaining it to workmates and some friends who have been, so how did you manage to do that sort of thing? How did you manage? And Eddie actually said to me, would you mind doing a video of your couple of properties with us and, show us what you've been able to do? I said, yeah, of course. So that's on YouTube as well. But
well done.
I done that with them, and a couple of my friends saw that or whatever, and it was just like, how did you possibly do that? And I was explaining, just the whole thing to them, and one in particular went from the parties every weekend to saving a little bit to getting into, and now he's got a couple of properties, within a year sort of thing, and it's actually so rewarding just being able to help people like that. So someday maybe I'll do it for a living, but right, yeah.
And I guess it's the same thing with your friend Alan, right? Made a decision and then led from the front. And what you've done is you've made a decision, and you're not pushing this onto other people and you have to buy a property, you have to buy a property. They're coming to you going, now, how did you do it? And it's a very different conversation. For example, it's a bit like your dad, where it's like, you need to buy this, and you meet him halfway.
Yeah.
Versus your dad kind of knocking over the head going, hey, Ronnie, keep buying. And you almost resist it because someone's pushing you into it.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
So I've done the numbers here, and let's go through your portfolio. So the purchase price across the whole portfolio was 2.095. Now, let's say, for example, we use 5% on purchasing costs and throw in your buyer's agents for 2 properties here as well.
Yeah.
The value on your portfolio, as you've given us today, stands at 2.7. Okay.
Yeah.
So as we break this down, the uplift in your portfolio value is $605,000. That's from October 2021 to May 2024, which is 3.5 years.
Yeah.
So if people are listening, follow, I think, work with me here. That's 42 months that you've been in the property market to get an uplift of $605,000, which when you work that out, it's $14,400 increase monthly. You can't save that money.
I hadn't even done those figures, Aaron. You're very good with figures, but yeah, that's a good one.
Don't tell my team think I'm terrible at numbers, so they're far better at me. But when I sat there and looked at this, I'm like, and I've done the episode with Jay Pace, which is property values increase across the country. I think it's $1,600 a week, and you look at this going, you've actually outpaced that. $1,600, $2,000 a month, $2,000 a week, thereabouts less. You've got an increase across your portfolio of just under 14.5 grand a month.
Yeah, it's crazy. It's absolutely crazy.
It's nuts. You can't save that. Even if you're one of the higher income earners, after you take out your living expenses and whatever you've got, your lifestyle, kids, I mean, you can't save that much money. And it just shows to me, I'm like, this is the power of being in the property market.
Yeah, absolutely. It's for anyone listening, it's literally, I just want to reiterate, anyone can really do this. I came here with nothing, started forget about the little property at home story, but October 2021, scraping a few dollars together, and 60K is not a lot of money, and then to turn 60K into 600 and in a short time, it's incredible.
Mate, well done. To put yourself out there very personally and to pop the hood on your own property portfolio takes kahunas, mate. And I'll tell you why, because every time you put it out there, someone's there to shoot it down going, but why would you buy a 1-bedroom unit, for example, in Cairns? And why would you buy this particular property? And everyone's there to take pot shots. And then you ask them what their portfolio looks like. And there's not many properties there. In fact, there's probably none. But they're happy to take pot shots at other people that are taking action and making some decisions. And no one's heart bleeds for a property investor in this market when we've got a rental crisis and housing affordability issues going, hey, mate, easy for you when you've got 5 properties. But you're going, tell me about that when I came to this country at $5,000 to my name 10 years ago. And here I am now. And it will surprise a lot of listeners, especially with the migration impact that we've had over the last couple of years. I won't consider you, I don't know if you fit the definition of a migrant, for example, but migrants will buy a property within the first 5 to 10 years of being in this country. So if you think it's hard now to buy a property, wait for the next 5 years in this time period where all the migrants who have come to this country are jacked of renting and want their version of the great Australian dream. They're going to buy property.
Absolutely. That's what most of my mates are. They're saying, oh, I'm waiting for the. I've honestly heard this. I've heard this since more or less since I came to Melbourne. I think, the prices are going crazy. The prices are going crazy. We're going to wait and just waiting to buy. Even now at work, there's fellas saying, I'm just waiting. These interest rates are really taking their toll now. Property prices are going to drop and all. I've heard this for years, and don't get me wrong, some markets back off, but over the long term, it's hard to see how you can go wrong. You know what I mean? And as you said, all the migrants and all, they can't keep up with the housing shortage, and it's just all the numbers add up big time.
Big time. Even if it did drop, I mean, let's look at worst case scenario, mate. You sell your properties, you pay your capital gains tax, and you have quite a few $100,000 that you couldn't have saved in that time to pay off your owner-occupied loan. Like that is the worst case scenario from what I'm seeing here. How is that a bad outcome? You could not have saved a couple $100,000 since 2021 to now.
Yeah.
Even after paying CGT. CGT is a success fee. So, Ronnie, I want to say a huge thank you, mate. Like I said, if anyone listening, no agenda here. Ronnie's not a client, for example. He's gone directly to a bank, used a buyer's agent for 2 out of his 5 property purchases. But here's the thing. He's taken action. And if you're inspired by Ronnie's story, awesome. If you know someone else who you've tried to have a chat to about property and you're not having success with them, share this episode with them and say, hey, look, this is coming from someone that you don't know or no affiliation to, and just go, look, this is their story, and they're happy to share their knowledge and their journey with the wider community. That's what it is, mate, passing the baton on to the next round of investors, mate. So kudos to you. Well done.
No worries. Thanks very much, Aaron. It's been a pleasure. And as I say, for anyone listening as well, if this is your first episode you've listened to, if you go back through all of Aaron's podcasts, there's a stack of information there. I've listened to, almost all of them.
Oh, man.
And you can literally, scale up your mind and everything else and get yourself prepared. Just there's such a range of things on there. So yeah.
Oh, you're a legend, mate. Thanks. What it is, and that's the thing with the podcast. When I'm talking, I think they say is as long as you can talk to one person out there, and that message then resonates and connects with someone, then mission accomplished here. So I'm not about subscriptions. I'm not about engagement. I'm about just kind of if I can have a chat with someone that can digest this in their own time, that's convenient to them, at a time that suits them. My mission is accomplished here, Ronnie. So I want to say, mate, love your stuff. I can't wait to see what the future has in store for you, buddy. Go well.
Thanks, Aaron.
Thanks, guys. That's a wrap for another episode. If you've got questions or you're an investor that wants to share their story, drop us a line. You've got our details. Hit us through our social media as well. I'll talk to you soon. Thanks.